Guys, and here we have what we worked on in class last week. So we'll call this project shader tree. So I think this is actually a good exercise and something for you to keep. It'll help you remember as far as like how to texture, how to color. And let me just actually bring in the image. This you'll be able to keep because I would also send the file, but at the same time it will help you actually, like if you're building something and you want to have like a brush aluminum, and it could be red, green, so I'm going to actually assign a bunch of materials so that you could have, and also dissect, practice, work on, and so on and so forth. So in here you have like the brush aluminum fill, you have something like aluminum foil crumpled up. You have a color glass material, you have a clear glass here with a thickness. So all these different things would actually are going to be useful as you know, work in 3D, and I think that would be very helpful for you. So I'm actually gonna show you the interface. I think at this point you'll definitely have a good understanding how to set things up on the table, but I'm just gonna just review some of the things that I think you should always keep in mind. So let's just go back. So if you get a chance and you place some of the spheres on your scene, and if I go to preview or perspective, let me just go to my camera, make sure that it's let me set the size to, so if you're in camera, like sometimes the camera looks a little bit too big and it might be in the way. It's a couple of things you could do, and I think we reviewed that before, but I'm just always gonna like repeat myself because I think sometimes it helps just in case you missed anything. So if you actually click on the camera and you see inside the camera where it says display, and you set this to like 0, it would just get smaller, so it'll adjust with whatever scene you have. As far as my scene, for now what I have in this scene is a floor, and let me just organize it a little bit. And if I go to wireframe, the floor, let me make sure it's in the middle. Looks like it's in the middle, but the floor, the back wall probably is not. So let me just make sure it's just to keep it organized. This additional polygon that you see here, let me just select all of them and go to reflection. You don't have to you don't have to build it just yet. You could build it a little later. If you do, we're going to turn it off because we're also going to talk a little bit about reflections, like adding a different reflections with different colors. So for now I'm just going to turn this off. So the good thing about having everything organized, that if you have a scene and a folder, you could just quickly turn off things that are within the scene. So in this case, what we have in the scene is the floor, the back wall, and the reflector. So we could just turn it on and off, as you can see here. So if I bring this into my preview mode, you see the reflector is on and it has a bit of a color. If I turn it off, you get like all this brightness going on. So you know, it's just depending on what you're looking for in the mood. So this actually helps, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So for now, you could actually have like, let's do at least 4 spheres, and whichever way you like, and whichever camera mode. Let me just set this to camera mode, and I'm just gonna, on this one, since we had already gone over this, what I'm gonna do is actually just basically just review some of the things to look for. If you have in here, we'll have the scene, right? So the scene is always try to keep everything organized. So I have like my cameras. If I have more cameras, I put it in a folder. What is this here? This is probably for these things I'll throw out. These are basically things that I used in the past, but I have my scene, all of these in here, and I'm gonna put these in a folder. So if you click on all of these, control group, I'm gonna say spheres in scene. So the good thing about this, it makes it simple and clean, right? So if you open this up, you have one, you know, the one you worked on. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5 one is actually one that we'll discuss. That's the matte um, texture that we worked at the end, so I'm just gonna keep that for last. All right, so, and then the same thing, you go in and you make sure you name every one of them so that you know exactly what 1 does, what 2 does, what 3 does, what 4 does. And then when you know click on the sphere, click on M for material, assign the name. So this is what we did. We went to the shader tree, and again, 1, 2, 3, 4. So all of these have their own material. So if I turn these off, you're gonna see how they'll go to the default material. And in your case or anybody's case, it all depends of what your default is. So let's go to 1. So if in 1 on mine, I had set this one right here is the only one that is activated right now, which is that glass field. So if you, let's just start with the 1. So if you go to 1 and you go to properties, textures, let me just, oh wait a minute, let me select the material first, material. So on glass, and let me actually name this glass. It's always good to name them like color glass, like color glass, right? And I'm gonna actually make a clay out of this one. It's always good to have like some sort of like a, oh, unfortunately this is like a different green. So let me just create a clay. And it's probably gonna be this based on this base. Bring this in. Bring this up. I'm gonna call this color glass too. Color glass 02. So we have different colors. I'm gonna provide you guys with this file so that you can actually look around. So what I usually like to have is something clay that has a little bit of life, but not too much that it's just gonna be difficult to see things. So if I set this thing to 50, and I'll make it like a neutral gray, somewhere in the middle here, click, and then I'll keep the specularity. Well, let's just turn the specularity off so you know what that does. The specularity gives you that speck area that you see in some of the things that are really shiny, but I'm gonna add a little reflection. So let's say 3. Alright, and Fresnel, I'm gonna add it. Just at 50 so that you see what that does. And I'm gonna click blur so that it gives you a little bit of sense of life, but neutral, so that we could actually start decorating. And we'll call that clay. You can make your own sort of clay however you like, something that actually is neutral, and just place some. Let me duplicate this, and then just place some in each folder so you could start with that. So I'm going to drag this down and grab that clay, right click, duplicate. So I use it for everything. So far I have it on material 2. So if you click on it, see now material 2 has it. So I'm going to click on material 3 here, which is that one. And I'm gonna, since I already cloned this, I'm gonna bring it into material 3, but I'm gonna put it away in the bottom. Turn these off. I'm gonna delete these other things because apparently I'm not using them. We'll name these as we go. So we have that, and then again, right click, duplicate. Turn 4 on, and just actually go in here, turn that off. So you now have every one of your spheres, how they set to clay. And this almost look like an egg, but it's okay. It's just to get an idea of color. So now that you see number 1 is clay, let's decorate it. And what we want to do is make this glass, and we actually have several. So let's just go here real quick. sometimes it doesn't. Okay. So we have, let me just, I just want, oh, I gotta put this inside of 4 and bring this up. It was outside. Okay, so let's just, okay, so everything's on. Okay, so we gotta like, you know, the space material I'm just gonna delete. So now if you, in your folder, you should have 5 materials, each and every one of these just name as simple as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the extra one. I'm just gonna turn that off. And then we'll start with the 1. And what we did create was glass. If you remember last time we did a class, we had we created a blue glass and a green glass. So we start with the green. And the way you actually work on glass, and I'm actually gonna do a different one. So I'm gonna start with the clay duplicate. So how do you make glass? So the diffuse on glass is usually set to 0, and then you return, and it'll, on your end it'll probably turn black. It's not usually blur. It has a little bit of reflection environment, as you can see here. It has a nice Fresnel of 50. It's always good to put a specularity. So like if you actually, let's say, put 90, you're gonna have like a real sharp. So that's exaggerated. So if you do 20, it's the softest one. It's more realistic. But if you don't like it altogether, you could also just say 0. So you might just want that. So you could have the 0, 0, diffuse 0, diffuse roughness 0, specular 0. Have all of these to 0. Just go to reflection, put 3 in Fresnel. So that's about it to get that like nice glass feel. On the right hand side here where you see material, this is material reference, and then materials transparent. So you click on transparent, and if you go in here, you could actually go anywhere from 0 to 100. So if you go to 100, it will be so transparent that it just looks like a mistake. What really helps give glass or that transparency some weight and feel like it actually exists. It's actually the refraction roughness. So right now it's set to 1. If you set this up to like 5, it automatically starts to feel like it's heavier. And another thing is like the transparent color. So if you see like in the previous ones that we have green, or we have blue, and you could actually alter these. So in this case, the transparent color is set to white. But if you want to actually add any color, automatically these things change the color. See? And the same thing happens with the refraction index. If you adjust the less, it's not as, it's kind of hard to tell because of the brightness, but it just becomes less and less of depth. The depth is different. Also, transparent, unless you're having like a really bright clear color like you see here, I will keep it to 100. But sometimes I just set it to like 80. It gives you a little bit of more life, and you can see what's happening all around. 65, even more so. So you could see some of the nuances happening all around in there. Another thing is dispersion. So you have this refraction roughness. It actually does like what you if you have a pair of glasses or a loupe or something that actually makes it, gives a property of glass thickness. You know, you could even Google what refraction index is, and you find it on diamonds and all these different things, zinc glass and so on. Dispersion, on the other thing, is actually used to give some sort of color when the light hits it. You have diamonds and all these different things that will create a little bit more of interest to the glass. However, it just takes a heck of a long time to generate an image from it. So, you know, I'll keep away from it unless you have like a really strong machine to run. I mean, this will look fine just as you see. Dispersion, that was dispersion. Refraction roughness, what it does, it's almost like the depth of field of glass. So right in front, it'll be somewhat polished like you see there, but the further inside of the glass, it starts to become very muddy or rough, you know, which happens in reality. So like if I set this to 6, you see how in here it starts to actually break apart, almost like blur. So that happens to glass. I mean, what I usually set this on is like 0.6, 0.7, and you get a little bit of it, but you don't want it to be too drastic. And the refraction rays, what it does, it usually gives you a sharper visual rendering. So 64 is the bare minimum. Highest quality is 256. So you will generate a visual that will look really nice. So that's what these things do. Luminous, it just basically, it would just make it really bright, you know, almost like a light. I no need for that right now. But if you actually decide to add 2 on it, you see it's just like a light bulb, and you could actually make that color too. So it's like really, so, but it's, you know, it's good for you to know. This part in the bottom, which you see subsurface scattering, is all actually do one with that. This, what it does is actually makes things waxy, like candles have subsurface scattering, skin has subsurface scattering. So the more you put on it, it looks like it's almost translucent but not glass. So you wouldn't use glass, it would just be subsurface scattering and color, and it will give you a little bit of more of a waxy feel, or you know, like a candle against skin. And we'll probably do one a little later on that. So and this is actually, I think I'm really happy that I'm doing this, because I think this is gonna help you a lot. And so here we go. So we have the let's just call this glass 0, 1. Alright. And again, I had the reflection at 3. You could bring this up as much as you like. See, 12 will make it really shiny, but it'll look fake. So I think 3 or 1.5 will give it like a really nice. I think I was fine on 3. Let's do it at 3. Keep it 3. 3 is good. So here you go. So I'll keep this guy. I'll keep these for you, so you could have. I mean, the second one is basically the same thing. The only thing we did different is actually we made a green and we had a specular and some Fresnel. So let's just turn that off, because I don't really like that little dot. No, didn't go away. Let me see. There you go, the Fresnel. So now it's away. So now you have a green, a red, class 1. So you have class 1, class 2. So you have a green one, a red one, and a blue one. Alright. And again, let's just get rid of these specular. I don't really like them on the glass. They just kind of look cheap. Another thing, alright, on this blue, for whatever reason, I think, let me see what I have on material. Reflection on, alright, maybe, let me increase this to 6 on the blue. See how the green got all this nice stuff happening. I actually like the red is a little less. So you could play around with these. The one thing I think I did on this one, I didn't do. Did I do it on the other ones? No. They have different refraction index. This one has dispersion. Refraction roughness, not dispersion. Refraction roughness. Just put refraction roughness here too. I think that just gives it a really nice, if you want to render these and test, it will look really nice. So then now on this blue one, I want to actually use absorption distance. What it does, it actually gives glass color. It's like the thicker it is, where it's thicker, it's darker, and where it's, you know, more room in the glass, it's a little lighter. And if you start on 0 or just a little bit over, it just becomes black. You see, because you have to start moving it until you see the results. See a little bit blue, keep moving. And you see a little blue, it's like almost like opalescent. There you go. Keep moving in. See, almost see through it a little bit more. Keep playing around with it. And what he does, he works better on a bottle, believe it or not. Here we go. So now you have, see, different, this has a little bit of absorption distance. So at least you get a chance to play around with every one of these. As far as noise, you know, so nothing is ever 100% perfect. So we actually, it's always very nice to add like little bumps and nuances to like things to just make them a little imperfect. So in this case, I actually added a little bit of noise. And you see how it kind of breaks apart, but this is actually probably too much because it's set to 100. But he breaks it up a little bit nice, you know. So if you feel like I want to add a little bit, but not that much, you see the noise, what the noise does, which to add noise, I don't know if you remember, we go to add layer and enhance MODO, noise, and you can play around with any of these. You'll see them on the right hand side here. I usually use the one that is called FBM, and once I add it in there, it comes in black and white. So you just gotta right click here on the right hand side where it says effect on top, and it will provide you with additional options. So I usually go to surface shading and then just select bump, and once it's that bumpy, automatically the opacity of the level of bumps is 100. So you know, you can play around with this and see what number might look good for your design. So it could be a little less. Also, if you have too much of it and you're like you want to see more of the bump, it's not enough for you, you could actually control the bump by where it says color glass. You bring this up and you see where it says bump out altitude is set to 5 millimeters, but if you increase that, it just becomes like really bumpy, you know. So you have different options. See how much it is. But let's say, wow, I like that, but I would like to have that sort of glass, but maybe like smaller. You know, like these bumps are like nice and bumpy, but if can I make that half? You know, so yes, you could actually go in here and where you brought up that bump, texture locator, the size. You see, you have this set at 45, 45, 45. And it's equally even as far as like the distance. So if you want to make that half, you just click on that little circle here, click on the back of the number, and then you just like back 2 and then return, and that just multiplies everything by 2 and it becomes even smaller. You see that here. And now it's like, wow, look at how detailed. You could even go you could go smaller if you want. So now you go back to, wait a minute, go here, texture. What if I just want just a little bit of it, like 25%? Say, it's just subtle, a little less, maybe 5. You know. So you have it just breaks apart a little bit of the image. So, but it's still somewhat sharp. So these are what these things do. I'm just gonna take this off. We don't need it. So at least you'll have this. So you know, I'll send this file for you guys. You could have. Okay, so that's 1. So let's go to 2. So we have clay, and what are we doing with this particular one? We're actually gonna make a metallic color. Alright, so let's click on the metallic color. How do we get that metallic color? And again, I'm gonna probably get rid of these things just for now because they actually I don't think they're doing much right now. So let's just go to the specularity and say 0, 0, return, and now it kind of looks more like one of those Christmas ornament. And how do you actually create something to be metallic? What metallic is actually the diffuse amount of the color. The higher it is, the more solid and less transparent, I guess. So I set usually 30 is a really nice number to start with, and then you could actually work your color. Let's say if you want a chrome, make this gray here, or if you want this gold, make this like an orangey yellow. Try to match something you like to target. And reflection is always got to be at least 30 to 35, so that it's reflecting enough. And then you have to yet again add another color. So it could be like if you're doing gold, it's like a darker gold and a lighter gold. If you go like this metallic color, it's kind of like a burgundy. You could go any color. Just I would suggest for you guys to explore. And if I click blurry off, you see that it's basically a reflective material, and the reflective material has a nice high Fresnel. 60 is always really nice because it just gives you a haze that kind of like navigates around the edge of the sphere. And then that's pretty much it. I actually added clear coat, which actually makes it a little bit cleaner and sheen. So if I set this to 0, you know, it's you probably just see it. You will have to probably see it on your screen. It's more noticeable on a sharper screen. If I add this to 50, see how it just brings a little more life into it. So I had it at 25 for what I like is good. So in that case, I actually added a blurry reflection because I want it to be kind of one of those like Christmas ornaments that are a little bit matte. And that's all you have to do here. As far as material transparency, nothing. This is just I would call this like red. If you want to do one in green, you could duplicate it. So now you have red. So let's go to green. Let's pick like this green here, right? And then you just go down in the bottom and have a different green. So you see now you have a green, and you could build your library of like materials that you could actually work and use for many different things. I think I added noise on this one too. So what did I do noise? Oh, it's similar to the one I previously done, except that it's actually a little bit bumpier. I guess it's more like a crumble. If you see here, it's kind of like a crumble aluminum foil, and you can increase and make it look more like aluminum foil. But again, if you go down here, bump up altitude, so you just kind of just drag this as much as you can, and you see how it starts to look even more like a paper foil. And you can increase the size too as well. So that's actually how this particular one works. Green. So now I used to have several colors, the red, green, and then you have the clay. So then you, and even the pump will work on, you see, in the clay. So that's number 2. And then for 3, alright, we did, I think what we did on this one, now that I remember, and you have, this is actually just, we started out with like a color, almost like a paint, a car paint, you know, which is like a red, and you could actually make this even more burgundy if needed. See, so it looks a little bit more like one of those, you know, cars. And again, it's just opacity 40, reflection 3. This has a little bit of a specularity. Specular amount is set to 40. If you set it to 10, it's just going to be like a little dot. 40. And so I would just, this is just colors, very simple. There's nothing, there's no transparent material. There's just mainly Fresnel, clear coat, actual color, done. What we wind up doing in this in last week's class, we actually made this material metallic, similar to what we did on this other side here. But what we did different here was we added a brush aluminum bump. And the way we did that, we went into Photoshop. If you remember, let me open up Photoshop. And I worked that out, and I'll teach you how to do this right now too, just in case you might not know. like to us. Okay, something happened over here. Scared me for a second. Class. Brush, right? So sometimes trying to find an image to give you that brush aluminum might be a problem. So I actually came across that issue many years ago, and what I wind up doing is I actually, the drawing back and forth, it took me a little while. I actually figured out a way to do it, and what I did was I actually went to File and Photoshop Edit, and then I just went Fill, and I said you can do black, but what I did is actually the normal, like dissolve, and instead of 100 I probably think I did 35. You could adjust and play with it. I think it would be great if you do. Oh, I'll do it in a different layer. Wait a minute. Make sure you add a different layer. Edit. File. Edit. Fill. Where's Fill? Oh, here we go. Fill is on the edit. Fill, and make sure it's black. Dissolve. 35 would do it. So you get like these little black little dots in Photoshop, and a separate layer. And then what you do in there is you just go to filter, blur, motion blur, and then just make sure that this is set to like or like you see, if you look at this, it's horizontal, and just set it and just move it as much as you can, and it just gives you like that brush aluminum feel. But for whatever reason, I don't know why, the edges are always like this. Everything is nice, it's just the edge. So what I do is I actually extend it so that I get what I need, and this gives you more of a brush aluminum feel. The only thing is I don't feel like at time it just kind of like blends right in, and I want this to be a bit more intense, so I just bring in a level from the sub menu here in Photoshop, and then that helps me increase it. And then I'll save this as an image file, and then import it into MODO. So don't save this, and that's what we did here in MODO. So we actually built that image, mapped it, and when it came in, we made sure that in the effects area we assign bump to it, and you could actually assign how much you want. The higher the number, the more of a brush finish you will have. So this actually so I hope I cover that. So that's pretty good. The glass one, which is the fourth one here. What I did on this one last week was I actually put a second glass inside that you could have this partition. It's kind of hard to determine what's happening because it's not a glass bottle or anything. So what basically happens is, like, if you're working on a glass that has a thickness, you have the inside and the outside, you assign the same properties that you might have done on this glass on this side, and just look at it with the refraction index. Play around with the refraction index. If you're doing a glass bottle or fragrance bottle, this actually will show you a little bit of a lot more clear than what I have going on here. Thickness of a bottle, because the bottle has a base and maybe a different neck. But I'm gonna leave this in here because it would actually show you how I accomplished some of the information that you see here. And again, it's just diffuse 0, specularity, this one has 20, reflection, I put 1 on here. I mean, you could add a little bit more, but I noticed that when I put glass, I did less of a reflection, the nicer it is. And then what else? I actually added the transparency amount to 90, refraction index, and that was pretty. You could add dispersion, not dispersion. It's just gonna take longer to render, but the refraction roughness might do a nice trick. It just kind of gives you that blur, and if you bring this up even higher, you'll see it. See how it kind of like blurs the inside of it, and it creates it, makes it look like one of those rough glasses. But this, so if you play around with it, I think you'll really appreciate it. The one last thing that we added in here, and I'm gonna save this just in case. It's actually a fifth, and it's right here peeking through on the right hand side. And what I did on the fifth was I actually created a matte, 100% matte color. And the way you do that material, if I unclick the blurry reflections, automatically gives you that matte feel that you see there. But what I added was like a diffuse color, and you could actually, this could be right now I have this set at 45 to 50, which is not bad, and you could put any color you want in here and it'll give you that sort of opaque look. I mean, the reflection will increase to 5, and I think that usually works pretty good, because in order for you to have that really frosty feel, you need to have some light, enough reflection and enough light hitting it so that you could see, you appreciate a little bit more of the frost. And then I click on the blurry, and automatically everything became blur. But another thing is, in order for you to get the more of a roughness, what it does, it just separates more. So like you say, if you have a 40, you see it's frosted, but you see a little bit more of the nuances, if that's something you're looking for. But if you want an overall uniform, really heavy frost, the higher this number is, the more uniform you'll see. See, if you just drag your cursor around here, you see it's more frosted looking. So that's what that does. I'm just gonna turn this one off here for a second, which is 5. And you see how just keeping everything here organized would actually help the scene, you know, and it'll help you learn without being really confused. So now let's go back to the scene here, and then we have we have the reflector. So let's just turn that on for a second. I don't know if you remember the reflector. So that's actually, let me just show you in the perspective view. See here, reflector. So we added this polygon, and then we assign a name, and we dropped it in the scene, and we called it reflector. And in that particular material, what we did is actually we gave it a color. So just in case you want to have like scenes that have like different colors in different areas, that's how you do it. Now the only thing on reflector, I would not use anything in here. Just turn everything off. And then down here in luminosity, this is where you play around with the color. That's where you see a little red here. If you set this up to like 1, see it's a little less. If you add a higher number, 6, see how everything starts to look a little wacky. So you play around to like, so you can match something that you actually like. So I'm gonna go 3 here, 2, and you see how this is kind of purple. It gets like a haze or open. But what if you change this color here to any other color of let's see, like I'm gonna go with a darker blue maybe. So you see now, and you see as I move the color, just move around and play around with it so you can see what else it does. And just like I have one, you could put one on the opposite side and just kind of see what kind of design you will come up with. All right, so I'm gonna upload this. I think this is actually enough for this video, and I think this will help you. I'm gonna provide you with these files. You could dig into them. Always refer back to the video just in case you have any questions, because I think just like having the videos, playing around with this, and just going back and forth and just doing this a few times will help you get a good understanding of these are some of the basics of shader tree. I mean, there's a lot more. I mean, there's hair and skin and things like that, but I figure we just keep this a little short today. All right, thanks again. Bye bye.